The year 2026 has barely begun, but the hallowed halls of Buckingham Palace are already trembling under the weight of a secret so dark, so explosive, that it threatens to incinerate the very foundations of the British monarchy. Forget everything you thought you knew about the fairy tale romance of Harry and Meghan. Forget the polished interviews and the carefully curated Netflix documentaries. A new shadow has emerged from the depths of the royal archives, and it carries a name that the palace has tried to erase from history: Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. For years, the world viewed Prince Andrew and Meghan Markle as two entirely separate entities. One, a disgraced royal stripped of his pride, and the other, a Hollywood actress who took the world by storm. But what if I told you their paths didn't just cross after the wedding? What if their circles collided in the dark, elite corners of global power long before Harry ever entered the frame? The whispers are no longer just whispers. They are a deafening roar echoing through the corridors of Windsor. Insiders are now surfacing with chilling claims that the palace spent millions to bury a connection that could destroy Meghan's carefully crafted image forever. We are talking about high-stakes social engineering, elite networking events where power and influence are traded like currency, and a timeline that simply does not add up. Think back to the first time Meghan was introduced to the family. The official story, fed to us by Harry himself, was that Meghan was so innocent, so unaware of the royal hierarchy, that she actually mistook Prince Andrew for a royal staff member. A servant. It was a charming anecdote, designed to show her outsider status. But critics are now pointing out a massive, gaping hole in that narrative. How could Meghan, who was famously best friends with Princess Eugenie, Andrew's own daughter, not recognize the father of her close friend? You don't spend years in the inner circle of a princess without seeing a photo of the Duke of York. This wasn't a mistake. Insiders claim it was a calculated performance. By pretending not to know Andrew, Meghan was allegedly shielding herself from the one question she feared most: how do you two actually know each other? If she acknowledged him, the floodgates would open. People would start asking about the exclusive yacht parties in the Mediterranean, the high-end networking events in London and New York where Andrew was a frequent fixture, and the mysterious missing years of Meghan's social rise. The palace atmosphere is currently described as radioactive. King Charles and Princess Catherine are reportedly holding emergency meetings because they know the truth is leaking through the cracks. They know that Andrew holds the keys to a vault of information that Meghan wants to stay locked forever. In October 2025, when Charles officially evicted Andrew from the Royal Lodge and stripped him of his final dignity, he wasn't just punishing a brother for his scandals. He was trying to silence a man who knows too much. Andrew is a man with nothing left to lose, and in the world of royalty, a man with no status is the most dangerous weapon of all. But the most shocking piece of this puzzle takes us back to October 2016. Harry and Meghan had been dating in secret for only 4 months. They wanted privacy. They wanted to build their bond away from the prying eyes of the world. Suddenly, like a lightning bolt, the story was leaked to the Sunday Express. But here is the detail that will make your blood run cold. The leak didn't come from a jealous socialite or a greedy photographer. High-level sources, including renowned author Tina Brown, have confirmed that the tip-off came directly from a staff member within the House of York. Yes, Prince Andrew's household. Why would Andrew's camp be so desperate to expose Harry's secret relationship so early? Was it a warning shot? Or was it a strategic move to ensure that Meghan's entry into the family was publicized before anyone could dig too deep into their shared past? The timing is too perfect to be an accident. In the world of the Windsors, there are no accidents, only chess moves. As we dig deeper into the mystery years of Meghan Markle, the plot thickens into a web of elite connections that lead straight back to the same circles Andrew frequented. Old photographs have begun to circulate again. Images from 2010 and 2011 showing luxury gatherings, elite yachts, and high society events. While the palace's legal teams worked overtime to claim the women in these photos weren't Meghan, the sheer aggression of their denial raised more eyebrows than it lowered. Why the panic? Why the immediate coordination to squash the conversation? It wasn't about the photos themselves. It was about the potential for the public to start connecting the dots between the people in those circles. These were small, tight-knit groups of the ultra-wealthy, where everyone knew everyone. It is statistically impossible for two people moving in those specific spheres for years to have never met. The reality is far more sinister. Some believe that Harry was kept in the dark by everyone: his brother, his father, and even his wife. He was the spare who finally found love, and no one wanted to be the one to tell him that his fairy tale was built on a foundation of hidden history. But Princess Catherine is reportedly tired of the secrets. Sources say she is the one pushing for total transparency, believing that Harry deserves to know the full extent of the social networking that brought Meghan into his life. The tension between Catherine and Meghan isn't just about a dress or a flower girl's tights, it's about a deep-seated fear that the monarchy is being manipulated from the inside out. Andrew knows. Charles knows. And soon, the whole world will know. The silence from Montecito is deafening, but inside the fortified walls of Windsor, the air is thick with the scent of a brewing mutiny. As we move into the second chapter of this royal nightmare, the focus shifts from whispers to hard, cold evidence that the palace has desperately tried to incinerate. For years, the public was led to believe that the friction between the Sussexes and the rest of the family was merely a clash of personalities, British reserve versus American stardom. But newly surfaced reports from late 2025 and early 2026 suggest a much more clinical reason for the divide, a dossier of information held by Prince Andrew that could rewrite the history of Meghan's arrival on the royal scene. Sources close to the Crown's security apparatus have hinted at a series of vetting anomalies that occurred back in 2017. Usually, when a commoner enters the royal fold, the background checks are exhaustive. However, in Meghan's case, it appears certain doors were left closed.
Why?
Some insiders claim that Andrew's existing knowledge of Meghan's social circles created a mutual assured destruction scenario. If the palace dug too deep into Meghan's past, they risked exposing the very same elite and often controversial networks where Andrew himself had been a key player for decades. It was a stalemate of secrets, and Harry was the only one playing a game he didn't understand. But the plot takes an even darker turn when we examine the newly unsealed legal documents related to the late Jeffrey Epstein. While the world focused on the names of world leaders and billionaires, eagle-eyed royal watchers noticed something peculiar in the margins of the 2025 releases. There were references to valuable media assets and strategic royal connections that mentioned both the Sussex and York households in the same breath. One specific email from March 2020, just as Megxit was unfolding, detailed how a single story linking Harry's public comments to Andrew's scandals generated over $4 million in publicity value. The media wasn't just reporting on a family feud, they were capitalizing on a deep, structural rot that tied the Duke of York's downfall to the Duke of Sussex's departure. Behind the scenes, Princess Catherine was reportedly the first to realize that this wasn't just a PR problem, it was a survival problem for the monarchy. Sources say Catherine has been privately appalled by the inconsistencies in the official timeline. She reportedly believes that the integrity of the throne depends on the truth, no matter how ugly. This has led to a silent but brutal war between Catherine and King Charles. Charles, ever the diplomat and a father torn between two sons and a problematic brother, has opted for containment. He wants to keep Andrew quiet by providing just enough support to prevent him from writing a tell-all book. Catherine, however, reportedly wants the cancer cut out once and for all. The tension reached a breaking point in December 2025 during a private summit at Sandringham. It is whispered that Catherine presented Charles with evidence of overlapping social contacts that Meghan allegedly maintained during her years in London and Toronto, contacts that were also high-level associates of Prince Andrew. The room went cold. If these connections were ever proven, the narrative of Meghan as a self-made woman who knew nothing of the royals would vanish instantly, replaced by the image of a strategic social climber who used the House of York as a ladder long before she met the prince. This is the hidden history that keeps the palace lawyers awake at night. And then there is the matter of Virginia Giuffre's legal team. Back in 2021, her lawyer made a statement that the world laughed off at the time. He wanted to depose Meghan Markle. He claimed she might have knowledge of Andrew's activities. Why would a lawyer for victims of an international trafficking ring even think to mention a television actress? Unless, of course, her presence in those elite circles was a known fact among the world's most powerful people. The deposition never happened, but the question remains, what did they think she knew? As we look at the timeline of 2016 again, the glowing coverage of Meghan's arrival starts to look less like a fairy tale and more like a carefully managed PR campaign. Remember, the leak came from Andrew's household. This was the same household that was under immense pressure due to emerging scandals. By leaking Harry's relationship and framing it as a modernizing force for the monarchy, Andrew's camp may have been trying to distract the press or, even more cynically, curry favor with the future king. They presented Meghan as a humanitarian, a fashion icon, and a breath of fresh air. But behind that curtain of glitter, the internal vetting was sounding alarms. One retired palace official recently hinted that Meghan's friendship with Princess Eugenie was the Trojan horse that allowed her to bypass the usual security scrutiny. Because she was already in with the Yorks, the rest of the family assumed she had already been cleared. It was a catastrophic oversight. Now, King Charles is left holding the bill. He has tried to soften the blow for Andrew privately, allowing him limited access to staff and maintaining a less aggressive tone than his public actions would suggest. But this isn't out of love, it's out of fear. Charles knows that Andrew is a cornered animal, and a cornered animal with secrets about the Duchess of Sussex is a threat to the stability of the entire Commonwealth. Meanwhile, Harry remains the most tragic figure in this chess game. Insiders suggest that Harry is still largely unaware of the depth of the palace's concerns regarding his wife's social history. He truly believes the resistance from his family is rooted in prejudice. He doesn't see the dossiers. He doesn't see the overlapping flight logs or the shared names in the elite social registers. He only sees a family that didn't welcome his wife. But William and Catherine see the bigger picture. They see a pattern of behavior that mirrors the scandals of the past, from Sarah Ferguson to the most modern controversies. They see the monarchy being used as a brand to sell podcasts and books, while the history of how that brand was acquired remains shrouded in mystery. The palace's strategy of silence is failing. Every time a new photo surfaces, every time an old associate of Andrew speaks out, the world looks at Meghan and asks the same question: what did you know, and when did you know it? This chapter of the royal saga is no longer about who made who cry at a wedding rehearsal. It's about the integrity of the bloodline and the secrets that elite society will kill to keep hidden. As we move closer to the ultimate revelation, one thing is certain: the truth about Meghan and Andrew is a ticking time bomb, and the fuse is getting shorter every single day. The clock is ticking, and the shadows over Buckingham Palace have never been longer. As we enter this final chapter, we are no longer talking about social awkwardness or family feuds. We are talking about a full-scale collapse of the royal narrative. The year 2026 has brought us to a terrifying crossroads where the past of Prince Andrew and the secrets of Meghan Markle have finally collided, leaving King Charles with a choice that could end the monarchy as we know it. The most recent whispers from the inner sanctum of Windsor suggest that a new set of photographs, far more damaging than anything seen before, has been circulating among a very small group of high-level power brokers. These aren't just grainy yacht photos. They are reportedly clear images of Meghan and Andrew attending the same private dinner in London, years before her first official meeting with Harry. If these photos reach the public, the official story of the Sussex romance will be exposed as a meticulously constructed lie. Insiders claim that the palace has been paying hush money in the form of legal retainers and private settlements to ensure these images stay in the dark. But in the age of digital leaks, nothing stays buried forever. The pressure is mounting, and the cracks are showing. Now, let's look at the chilling reality of Meghan's silence. Have you noticed? Since the unsealing of the latest high-profile legal files in early 2026, Meghan Markle has been uncharacteristically quiet regarding the House of York. For a woman who prided herself on using her voice for transparency and justice, her refusal to even acknowledge the downfall of Prince Andrew is a glaring red flag. Sources say this silence is not accidental. It is a strategic retreat. Meghan reportedly knows that if she speaks out against Andrew, she risks him retaliating by releasing his own detailed accounts of their shared elite circles. It is a cold, calculated Mexican standoff. If she goes for his throat, he burns her house down. And at the center of this firestorm is King Charles, a monarch who is reportedly exhausted by the constant damage control. Sources suggest that Charles is privately disgusted by the web of lies, but he is paralyzed by the fear of what the truth will do to the institution. He has been seen in deep, late-night consultations with Princess Catherine, who has reportedly become the unofficial enforcer of the family. Catherine is no longer interested in playing nice. She sees the Sussex-York connection as a poison in the royal bloodline, and she is reportedly pushing for a total severance, not just of titles, but of any association whatsoever. The global implications of this scandal are staggering. We are seeing a shift in how the world views the British monarchy. It is no longer a symbol of tradition. For many, it is becoming a symbol of elite secrecy and hidden agendas. The Epstein effect has cast a long, dark shadow that Meghan can no longer outrun. Even the media outlets that once protected her are starting to turn. Investigative journalists in the UK and the US are now digging into the financial records of the charities and shell companies associated with the Sussexes, looking for any link to the same offshore networks that Andrew used for decades. The dots are starting to connect, and they lead to a world of high-level social engineering that the public was never supposed to see. This isn't just about Meghan, it's about the entire system of vetting that failed the British people. How did an actress with such deep, overlapping connections to the most controversial royal manage to marry into the heart of the family without a single alarm being raised publicly? The answer, according to some, is that the alarms were raised, but they were silenced by those who thought they could control the narrative. They were wrong. As we reach the climax of this saga, the focus returns to Harry. Recent reports suggest that Harry's happy exterior is beginning to crumble. Those close to the Duke of Sussex say he has started asking his own questions. Questions about the York leak in 2016, questions about why his wife's name appeared in legal discussions she claimed to know nothing about, and questions about the private meetings between his father and Prince Andrew. Is Harry finally waking up to the reality that he was a pawn in a much larger game? If Harry ever realizes the full extent of the palace's concerns, the fallout will be cataclysmic. He didn't just leave his country for love. He may have left it for a version of the truth that was carefully filtered for his consumption. Meanwhile, in London, the preparations for the Great Disclosure are already underway. The palace is reportedly drafting a series of contingency statements, preparing for the day the photos or the testimony finally breaks. They are bracing for a storm that will make the 1990s look like a peaceful summer afternoon. The House of Windsor is in survival mode, and the price of that survival may be the total sacrifice of the Sussex brand. The final piece of evidence that has everyone talking is a mysterious letter of intent, found in a safe at the Royal Lodge after Andrew's eviction. While the contents haven't been fully leaked, rumors suggest the letter mentions a California connection and a long-term strategic alignment dating back to 2015. If this document is what people think it is, it proves that the Sussex-York alliance was planned long before the public ever heard the name Meghan Markle. It would mean that the fairy tale was a production, a masterclass in global branding designed to infiltrate and then monetize the oldest monarchy in the world. As we close this chapter, the question is no longer if the truth will come out, but when the final blow will be delivered. The fuse has reached the powder keg. Prince Andrew is the ghost that won't leave, and Meghan Markle is the duchess whose past is finally catching up to her. The throne is shaking, the secrets are screaming to be heard, and the world is watching with bated breath. This is the end of the beginning, and the beginning of the end for the royal family as we knew them. Stay tuned, because the Real explosion is just moments away.